Hey everyone, this is Bass. I am deciding, if a little bit late, to start doing the creative challenge. So, this is something I got really inspired to do by my friend Harry, who is also doing this kind of devlog experience, sharing what he learns around making a game. And I thought I'd do something very, very similar, but in another kind of context. So, what I'm going to be trying to do is put together an RPG. A game that you can jump in, roll some dice, flip some cards, but playing that along with your friends at a table. And I'll talk a little bit about what I'm thinking about that first. But let's just go over some things, mainly to set my own expectations, I suppose. I'm also going to try the devlog thing, mainly because I'm really, really bad at it, and it's something I wish I could get better at. It's also a good way for me to just check in on, hey, I might not have something to produce today, but here's what I thought about. Here are some of the things going on in my mind. Here's what I learnt. Here is how something worked that I didn't expect. So that's going to be my plan. The other thing is I'll try to make one of these every day. No promises, of course, just with the way everything is. I'll give it an upload. You can follow along. That'd be great. Send me any questions. Yeah. My idea is, if I'm going to make a game, it'll be more in the style of they're called zines, like a magazine of really short, only a couple pages. Here's how you play, kind of deal. Something you could easily run in a single night with a group of friends. Doesn't require that much prep, and I'll give that a go. I'm also not really expecting anything to be polished. Yeah, I may get a fun playtest by the end of this, but again, we'll see how it goes. I absolutely have no idea what it takes to make a game, apart from lots of iteration. So I think let's go on that journey together. Let's find out, and we'll see where this goes. Yep, that's mostly it from a goals perspective. Let's talk a little bit about RPGs, in case you've never played an RPG before, or you don't know what an RPG is. It's a role-playing game, is what it stands for. Usually, it's a collaborative storytelling game, and I'll talk about that in a second as well. The idea, you might have heard really common ones like Dungeons and Dragons. You may have seen a podcast or heard about it, where the idea is you have a dungeon master, game master kind of role, telling a story, and everybody else at the table plays a character and responds to that story. Well, that's one type of role-playing game. I'm actually going to go for something completely different, which is more around the collaborative storytelling and world-building aspect, where instead of playing a single character and then you have a dungeon master or game master dictating what happens in the world, what NPCs do, that kind of stuff. This will be a little bit more abstract and more of a broader storytelling tool, where you and a group of friends will sit there and start from nothing, a blank screen, and build a world that is hopefully thriving, hopefully very interesting. You can tell small snippets of stories, and you sort of work together to paint this picture of what is this place like? Who lives here? What do they do? So that's kind of the thing I'm going for. There's a couple of games in this style already that I'm already a big fan of. Something like Fiasco is very, very popular, where you still play a character, but you play characters in scenes with other people to put together this story. Three of my favorites are a game called The Quiet Year, which has this really cool mechanic where you are drawing on a map and creating a map over time, which I think is quite fun. Microscope is another really popular entry here, where you look at the story of your world over time, and that over time aspect I'm a little bit interested by. And very recently, my friends and I played a game called Companion's Tale, which kind of spiked this interest, where the main theme of that game is that you are telling the story of a hero, but nobody is the hero. You're telling it via a series of unreliable narrators who said, yes, of course, I was with the hero when this thing happened. But a whole part of that game is throwing doubt into the validity of these stories and having that conflicting perspectives set up interesting things in the world. So that's my plan. I'm hoping to try to do something a little bit similar. I've started mind mapping a bunch of stuff around like, what do I enjoy doing? I really, really like this idea of map making. I think it's a lot of fun to start with nothing and then watch it just organically grow over time. And then at the end of the night, you've got this picture of, hey, here represents all the stories we've told. Collaboration, definitely on my radar. Something that evolves over time, I really like. I'm kind of playing with this idea of this being a tool that you can run with your friends before a more traditional game like Dungeons and Dragons to set up a world. Something that our old game master did was run a session where we built the world together, and that was a lot of fun. I realize I'm talking and my face is in the way, so let me just quickly move that. But yeah, the idea was that we built the world together and then we were just much more invested about it, right? We told the history and then ran into that history later on when playing the game. I've sort of got some vague ideas for gameplay at the moment, but they're really, really rough, so I'm going to come back into that later. But my broader idea here is around mythology. And how can you talk about how religion and myths and legends impact the people in a world? So what do these people find valuable? Is that because of they told a story about this being the first thing that their gods created? Are there warning tales and cautionary fables that help influence, oh, of course you should never go into the forest because the evil necromancer lives in there. The god of the dead lives in this forest, as a way to scare children. It's a fun maybe idea for explaining things that are in the world that you can't explain, like why does the sun go up and down? And I also really like this aspect of mythology, tales that sort of get retold over time, and there might be really commonalities between different cultures, say like the Greek mythology and Roman mythology, where there's a lot of shared story, but details change over time, and that reflects in cultures changing over time, which I think is kind of fun. Also, I like this idea of bardic knowledge, where, before the internet and the written word, it was just stories being told and then retold and slightly changing over time to reflect what was happening in the world. I kind of want to try to explore that aspect of it a little bit, and not just, hey, here's a story of things that happened, but here is how that mirrors the culture and the world as it evolves. That's my broad idea. I don't know how effective it's going to be. I'm going to try to think about things a little bit every day, start to write some rules, start to write some ideas down into prompts, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, thank you.